Hey guys, this is Martin Perdomo, the Elite Strategist, and you're listening to Latinos in Real Estate Investing Podcast. And today I have a friend, Josh McCallen. Josh, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
on fire over here, buddy. Latinos in Real Estate. I'm so grateful to be part of this community and getting to know you better and better every week.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much, man. I'm really excited because, guys, Josh is the host of Capital Hacking. He's a husband and a father of 10 kids. He's an expert in hospitality and hospitalities of investors, and he owns Accountable Equity.
Yeah.
Check out his podcast, by the way. Has an amazing podcast, and he's not too far from me. He's out up in Philly. And
right.
Glad to have you here, brother. As you guys know, I'm in Pennsylvania as well, the Poconos. And Josh, thank you for being here, my friend. And I just, man, we spent some time together a few weeks ago, last week actually.
Yeah.
And you were telling me you own hotels, and man, how does one do that, right? So we just coming off of, we're at the tail end of COVID, right? I'm a multifamily guy and a flipper, and but we're at the tail end of COVID. How does, you're killing it? We spent some time. You're killing it in that space. How does one do that? How did you survive, man? I got so many questions for you. How did you survive COVID when everything was shut down?
Yeah.
But let's start from the beginning. How does a person get into hotel investing? Here's the thing. I was telling my I host a meetup, and I was telling my meetup, I was actually talking about you, and I said,
well, thank you.
Most of us that go to hotels, we're either doing one of two things, brother. We're either complaining about the hotel, or we're praising how wonderful, how clean, and how awesome it is. We're never talking about the stuff we were talking about. We were challenging you. Hey, what are you going to do to make it different for your resorts and your stuff? And we were having those discussions. So anyways, take us from the beginning, my friend. That looks beautiful, by the way. The background there.
I'm showing, for those of us driving, I always joke, Martin, that so many of listeners on podcasts are in these fancy cars. I mean, not everybody. I don't even drive a fancy car, but some people drive those fancy Teslas, which you've heard of, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And we joke on our podcast, if you're driving a Tesla, don't worry. The car will drive for you. Just grab a pen and paper. We're going to go over some great stuff right now. But yeah, so if you're driving, you can't see what's going on the screen, but Martin has not yet been to the glorious, world famous RENAULT Winery Resort, which is only about an hour and a half from him, maybe a little longer. And it's in New Jersey. It's near the coast, near Atlantic City, but on 200 beautiful acres. So beautiful. Golf courses, historic winery, wedding venues, hotels, restaurants. A village, by the way, if you're listening to this, hopefully we're going to get this out soon. If you're listening to this in December or even late November, you're going to know that you are welcome. And you can feel free to reach out to me even directly to come and see our winter village. We call it Vintner, like winemaker wonderland. It is so freaking awesome. I got to get Martin out here. I know his kids are older, but even adults ice skate. We have an ice skating rink, NHL style, cold with glycol. And then we have shops and bars and hot fire pits. And dude, man, I got to get you out here right away.
My wife and I will be there before the new year. I assure you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a getaway. We're going to go up there. I'm going to make sure we grab all that information. It looks beautiful. We love doing things like that. So we'll be there before the year's out.
So that's our, listen, here's the deal. I'm going to go back. Let me hit the questions the way you want me to hit the questions. Where would you like me to begin? How does this all start? Would you like me to say it that way?
How did you buy your first hotel? How did you get involved with real estate? I mean, how does one do that?
Yeah, like you, Martin, I just started by one. Well, we'll get to hotels, but I'm like you guys. I mean, listen, I had one house in 1997. My beautiful wife, Melanie, and I married. We were young pups, maybe 22 at the time. Super young. That's how we can get to 10 kids before we die. And we got to 10 kids naturally. So anyway, in 1998, we're a year out of school and we buy our first duplex. And back then we just thought, I remember somebody saying, what if you buy this house? You don't have to pay for rent. I'm like, well, you don't have to pay for anything because the renters will pay for it. And I sat there, I'm like, what? And it was back in the day when I lived in a pretty humble area outside of Pittsburgh, really cheap area called Steubenville, Ohio, where Franciscan University is, which is where I went to school. Now I was working there at the time as a recruiter, and I was getting my MBA. That's kind of the genesis where someone told me about real estate. I grabbed a piece of paper and I said, oh my God, you're right. If I rent out the other place for like $600 because it was cheap, that's like my mortgage is $325. My utilities are $225 total. I'm done. I'm making money to live. And that changed my life in a way. We kept that for about 10 years. I forgot that lesson though, until, I ended up living in Europe for a while and all this great experience we started having a big family. And I stumbled back into real estate when we came home from Europe after 4 years of living there, running a campus for a university and a hotel in the Alps, near where Sound of Music was filmed. If you ever saw that movie, we're in Austria. Mm-hmm. Came back and I said, I have a dream. I have a dream to get into real estate. And I grew up very poor. Mark, we were talking about welfare. I was on welfare for a while. My poor mom had a stroke. I love my life because I always worked. I enjoy work. I'm like you, Martin. The busier I am, the happier I am. The more people I'm helping, the happier I am. But back when I was a kid, my wife loves telling the story. I was always selling stuff at recess. So anyway, back then I had to learn how to be handy. My dad was gone. So I watched This Old House since like the early 80s. I was like an aficionado of Bob Vila and all the guys on This Old House. So I was actually pretty handy, always had a passion for real estate, but no idea how to get into it. So I just networked my ass off and we got a break. After about a year of networking, I was a lender. I used lending as a stepping stone to meet developers because now I knew how mortgages worked because I was selling them. It was commission only. I wasn't making much. My wife was furious with me. I'm like, honey, I feel like I have to, it's a stepping stone, honey. I'm going to figure out how to get into real estate. And eventually I met, after 6 or so, like this guy thought I was a good kid and that guy thought I was a good guy. And this guy said, you got to keep meeting these people. Finally, I meet somebody who goes, wait a second. Why don't you just join my company? And I'm like, what? Oh, okay. I was trying to network them about, could we, long story. I don't want to get into all that, but he goes, why we're building luxury beach houses for flipping on the Jersey Shore in the most expensive towns for New Yorkers and Philadelphians. And I'm like, that's a dream come true. So I ended up helping him project manage. He was a super affluent person. Some people would call what I did was I worked for a family office. They would call it that. Right. Mm-hmm. So I went from growing up super humble to figuring it out, being a scrappy guy, getting good jobs, to all of a sudden, damn, I'm in the right place at the right time. And now I'm with this family that has wealth and a lot of things change. It's a lot like that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? I mean, I had read that too, but it didn't leave a big impact at the time. I'm sure you guys know Robert Kiyosaki, right, Martin?
Yeah, of course.
Well, the rich, and I hate that word rich, but the rich think differently than the people who grew up really humble. They see money not as like to buy Lamborghinis, but like as a tool to buy assets. Mm-hmm. And maybe they could afford a Lamborghini, but it's not about cars or planes or anything like that. It's about like, okay, if we have this cash and we bought this house and hacked it, now we don't have costs for living. And they just think about that on grand scale, right, Martin? That's my best way to explain what happens when you're around people that have cracked the wealth code. And that cracking the wealth code is usually just seeing assets as your priority. Get assets that make you money, even if you're sleeping, and boom, it doesn't matter if you become rich enough to buy a Lamborghini, you're already starting to build wealth right there. That's the whole crux. So we made a whole podcast about that. We call that capital hacking. And we teach that, hundreds of episodes. We've had all the famous people, Martin. We've gotten Robert Kiyosaki's been on the show. He endorsed the show. And then we had all the bigger pockets
himself here.
The Mr. Rich Dad, episode 25. I'm going to send it to you so you can hear it. It's hilarious.
I just studied with him, by the way, in Texas in his 4-day MBA course with Keith. Did you have Keith himself?
No, you got to teach me this.
Oh, brother, there's the actual Rich Dad from the book. He's alive. His name is
Keith Cunningham.
Yep. I studied with Keith last month, actually October, 4 days. He has a 4-day MBA class. But anyways,
he has the keys to the vault. The keys to the vault book. I own it.
He has a mastermind. He has a bunch of different things. Anyway, keep going.
We're going to get into that on my show. I got to get you on the Capital Hacking podcast because I do not know all about that. I knew Robert Kiyosaki for a few days, spent some time with him, and I got him on our show. But they think differently. And bottom line is, I got to build beautiful houses for years until the bubble burst, and then accidentally, that family was super wealthy, and their whole theory was rich dad, poor dad, right? They were buying assets. So they bought a hotel by accident. And I joked that they bought it by accident in 2006, 2005, right before the things start going bad. And they're like, well, we'll buy a beach hotel. We'll take it through legal permitting to get it to become condos or townhouses. And boom, we'll sell them as townhouses or condos. So we don't give a crap about hotels. This was their theory in 2005. We give a crap about owning the beach land. Well, they got stuck. It never got built. And then the bubble burst, right? So now it's 2 years later. They still own this dump. Hadn't been updated since the 70s. It was in New Jersey on the southern part of Wildwood Crest, if you know the area, guys. It's called Diamond Beach. And I said, what? He goes, what would you do if you were me, Josh? Now the bubble's busted. We're a couple years into the recession. It's 2011, 2012. And he goes, what would you do, Josh? We're friends now. I'm not even working for him anymore. I'm doing my own thing as a consultant. And I go, well, let me think. And I went down. I spent time at the property in New Jersey for the last month of the summer. I'm like, damn, there's a lot of people that want to be here, but the place smells like mildew and death. I don't want to stay here, but you're charging like $250 a night for something I wouldn't even want to sleep in. That's a lot of money. I'm like, man, people will pay you if it's at the beach. So I wrote a business plan and I said, what if we restore it and flip it like we used to flip houses, guys? What if we became hotel flippers? And he loved the idea because he and I love construction. By that point, I'd built $55 million worth of beautiful things. And so I had a really cool resume, beautiful, beautiful stuff. He also, of course, was the financier of all that. So he obviously had a killer experience building buildings. I'm like, man, let's build a killer hotel business. We'll do it up and down the Eastern Seaboard. We'll go to Nantucket. We'll go down to the fancy towns like the Hamptons. We'll buy every dump motel that was built in the 50s, turn it into a sexy, sexy beach hotel, like out of the movies. And he goes, I love the idea. Let's do it. And I said, well, we'll start with yours that you own because you can't get out of it. You're upside down. And if it works, we'll keep going. Anyway, so it didn't work.
Oh boy.
The punchline is it cost a ton of money to fix up a 1970s hotel, like $8 million rehab. Okay. Whoa. What if you have time, everybody, look it up. My first hotel I ever built, a full turnaround, was called Icona, Icona, Diamond Beach. And in that business, I said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to make a vertically integrated company. We're going to flip them, then we're going to brand them, and then we're going to kind of partner with the wealthiest people up and down the Eastern Seaboard and either buy them from them or partner with them as a management company. Well, anyway, it failed because we overestimated the ability of third-party managers, just like in apartments, right, Martin? I don't know how many apartments you let other people manage, but you probably don't. It doesn't usually work out unless you really have a great operator. And in hotels, it's like that on steroids. Okay. So what happened was we thought, I hired a group of Marriott people that had all worked at Marriott. I'm like, they're going to be great. So I turned over the keys to them and they crashed and burned that first year. Lots of reasons I can go into, and I have tons of podcasts about it. They basically were trying to run it like a Holiday Inn Express or something, simple, which I like Holiday Inn Expresses. That's where I stay, but they're way easier to run than a resort. A resort has restaurants and beach amenities, and we call them beach boys. They carry your stuff it has hundreds of people work there. Whereas a Holiday Inn Express has 5 on a given day. 15 on the payroll. We had hundreds on the payroll. So it just was a whole different scale. They crashed and burned. The F word was the most common word at the front desk because people hated us. Boy. And I'm like, dude, we have the prettiest property on the Eastern Seaboard right now. Everything was fancy. I hired the Travel Channel designers to help me think it through. I tried to get free PR on HGTV. I mean, we did everything. And it looked awesome. If you look it up, you're like, damn, I'd like to stay there. Well, guess what? It sucked. So the next year we searched our soul and we said, well, what's missing is dynamic training of our staff. And therein lies the genesis of my next 10 years of my life is we became on a quest to learn how to train hospitality skills for the masses so that we could deliver incredible service. And thank the good Lord, 3 years later, we were a top 25 hotel in America out of 55,000. And since that day, Icona has been in a top 25 since 2015.
That's awesome.
Which means
Congratulations,
it's statistically impossible because there's 55,000 Marriotts total and independent, and we beat them all if you looked it up on TripAdvisor, which is the world ranking of hotels. So Wall Street Journal, that just parlayed a whole new career. So we've done since that day in 2011, 2012, that first business plan, I did 3 as Mr. Icona, president of the company. And then we've done 2, and we're about to do several more next year. So we've done 5 mega world-class turnarounds since 2012.
That is amazing, brother. That is amazing. So what happened with that hotel? I'm not on the one that the one that
I did.
Whatever happened to it.
So year 1, we give it to somebody else, and it crashes and burns. We barely pay the mortgage. Year 2, we take over management, and we stumble really hard. We get our teeth kicked in, but we get it back up to profitable. And year 3, we get our training program down, we get our sales program down, and we bring in, on numbers level, we bring in about 1.8 million in profit in our 3rd year. And when we started, the entire business couldn't even bring in 1.8 million top line. So we all of a sudden are excessively profitable. And to this day, I think they've doubled that profitability. I'm no longer their president. I'm now a founder of a new company. But so the answer is once we learned how to train and we focused our whole heart into operations, then we kicked ass. Awesome.
My next question for you is, my friend, hotels. You're into hotels. You started with a duplex.
Yeah.
Why hotels? I mean, which is great because we both come from very humble beginnings, and I started with a little tiny. If I know what I know now, Josh, I'd have never bought that first property. You're so that sometimes when you don't know what you don't know what it, like right now, I would look at that and say, hell, I'm not touching that. But I did, and it turned out great. You just sometimes too much.
Thank God.
But why did you
hotels
into hotels and not stay in another lane like multifamily or RV parks or those things? Why hotels?
We do. This is not. We don't want to make it a dissertation on hotels for everybody, but there are more types than you think. Meaning, we've all heard of the motels on the side of the road. That's called a 1-star. Super easy to run. We're at the highest level. We're close to 5-star. So we're right below the Ritz-Carltons. We're 4-star, which means we have restaurants, amenities, fun things like golf resorts. We have marinas. So we actually have things, and we can sell those things. And then now I'll answer the question about why I'm so passionate about hotels. So we can sell more than just a bedroom, right? And so if you looked at our P&L, our profit and loss statement, you'd be like, oh my God, you have so much revenue. I mean, we have a ton of revenue. For example, we did 2.5, which was our first year at this current property, RENAULT. We did 5 under Corona. So we doubled 100% growth during Corona. And we tripled this year. We're at 16 million in cash flow right now. So it's exponential. And this next year, we expect to hit 20 million all the way up to we're on a path towards 40 million by the time we're done a year in revenue at one property. So it's just exponential revenue. Now you have to operate that revenue correctly to get profit. So hotels for us are actually my calling, brother. So there's 2 things going on here. I watched how commercial real estate made my old partner extreme wealth. I saw what happened where you take a building that's barely making money, just like a multifamily, add more profit to it, and what happens? The value goes way up.
It goes up.
Well, in multifamily, you can do that incrementally, like raise it by 10% revenue, or you could charge $150 more rent. It's awesome and it's powerful. And then you get that the bankers then give you a lot of valuation for that $150. You're like, what's $150 going to do for us? Well, it does a lot. The bankers love it, and they give you all of a sudden the building might be worth $500,000 more or $1 million more in multi. In hospitality, I could take it from 2 million to 16 million in just 3 years. So I can change revenue from 0, basically barely break even, which is what we want to buy. We kind of want to buy things that are struggling. We pay a fair price. We value add. We come in, we make them gorgeous, and we sell. So we use weddings as our secret sauce. We sell more weddings at this RENAULT property than anybody in America. We sold 400 weddings during the pandemic. And this is so complicated. I don't want to make it too complicated, but just think of it this way: 25% cash deposit the day you sign. So during the pandemic, we had several $1 million of cash handed to us while we were in lockdown. And just let that sink in for a minute. So instead of us having too many bills going out because we're in lockdown, we're selling millions of dollars of weddings.
A bunch of cash
it's going into your bank account as the owner of this business. And all our investors could see that they had a stable asset, even with COVID. And then as we came out of COVID, we said, well, weddings are still delayed. You know, the government got really serious about trying to become communistic and making sure they were in charge of everything. And all of a sudden we couldn't even open the damn business. Well, they let us have one thing. Remember, the communist overlords they allowed us to do one thing, and that was outdoor dining.
Yep.
We couldn't even have weddings, but we could have outdoor dining, right? And for those of you who are driving the Tesla and can see this, I don't know if you get to see videos. We have 200 acres. So take a look at this. All of this whole green became a 5-acre outdoor restaurant, fire pits, restaurant, music. We had freaking first-class entertainment going on in the cold with heaters. We had some days during the COVID, we had over 1,000 guests show up outside. Now, it was technically legal. So we weren't breaking any laws. Nobody was inside, but we navigated through the new world order, and we made a ton of money. And the investors saw that, and then we got another 100 investors.
I want to unpack that a little bit, man, because as business owners, right, as entrepreneurs, one of the things I learned when I studied with Keith is, I knew it, is think time. It's as business owners, we need to have some think time, right? What are we spending time thinking to resolve these issues and get creative and innovate, right? How did you guys come up with this grand idea, right? What is your mindset? So Corona happens, you're freaking told you can't open your business, right? Because let me tell you, man, that old freak, you saw the news. We saw our like you said, our communist government saying in California, you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, you couldn't do anything. How was your response? Because I'm a big believer that mindset is 80% of the game to success, right? Mindset, how you respond to adversity. What was your mindset in your team, Josh, as you're being told by the government, we're going to find you, we're going to do this, if you do this, and you have all these investors you're responsible for.
Yep.
Tom, what's the mindset? How are you processing that information? And how did you look for the opportunity?
So you know what? There's actually a new book written by a famous young guy, probably 30 years old, but he's a deep thinker. His name is Ryan Holiday. The book is called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's an ancient, actually, it comes from the Stoic philosophers, that principle, that the obstacle is the way, which means people from 2,000 years ago, not even modern day people. And their point is, if the obstacle's in front of you and you fight to overcome it, that is the path to success. Not avoid every obstacle is the path to success. Overcome the obstacle is the path to success. So thank the good Lord, we were somewhat hardwired by this, Martin. And I think it is because you grow up in stressful situations. There's a bit of a blessing to our personality types too. Not everybody that goes through tough poverty at some points. I mean, there was times where I always say I was one of the first kids that got free lunches. Free lunches is normal today, but in the early 80s, I don't remember that being a thing. But our school was nice enough to give me and my brother free lunch every day. And, it was awesome. It was good that people took good care of us. Thank God for the charity. But my point is, you can either see that as like the world's against me and I'm oppressed, or you could be like, you could just see how to get out of it and just fight to get out of it. And so that's when I started being a paper boy as a kid and selling cotton candy at lunch, because I don't know. So that's a bit of a blessing. I think our personality types can help. We can also control our mindset. So as adults, you and I can control our mindset. But I guess I was a little bit hardwired to overcome adversity and not cry about it. So COVID was a bad thing for hospitality.
Yeah.
But my wife, who's my actual business partner, though she has 10 kids, of course, we have adult children too now, and they can help us. So she is a freaking kick-ass leader of our programming team, which puts on live events. She's a kick-ass leader of our creative design team, which has a Disney Imagineer on it and interior decorators and stylists. So what you get when you show up here is like an overload of like awesome crap. Like we're just awesome. Like thank the good Lord. Like your fire pit. You're like, man, I want to have a hot cocktail at the fire pit and just get a little inebriated in a good way and just enjoy life for half a day. Well, that's what this place is all about because we designed so much culture in it. Now, my point is the way we overcame COVID was, and I'm going to show you something that I don't think your guests can see. Can you let me share something? Because I'll let you speak to it while we're talking. This is what you wanted to see. And for his guests, for him, he'll probably navigate. It still says host disabled. But I'm going to show you what it looks like. So we just came up with an idea from Europe when we lived there for 4 years. In Europe, it's cold, brother, and Northern Europe. It's cold, and they drink outside in the winter. And they do it at these winter festivals from Paris to Vienna. And we got to go to these when we lived there. Okay, so this is the secret. Sometimes you just have to cobble together a few good ideas from other people, right? And you don't have to create every good idea, but you have to be open-minded. So this is what I'm telling you got to get to. Can you see that little video? I know your guests can't, but are you dying or what? I mean, like literally it's freezing cold and we're making money, man. This is actual live footage. We got the horse carriage. We got the carolers. Dude, it's awesome. So we just used some creativity. We called in favors, asked people to, how do you get an ice rink out here in a month? And we had an ice rink out there. And so a little bit of creativity, a little bit of experience from Europe. And now we do it this year. This year we do it for 3 months. So it'll be going on from Black Friday all the way till at least Valentine's Day, if not more.
Got it. That looks amazing. So your process, was it just you and your wife? You guys?
We have about 200 teammates. At the time it was COVID, so we were down to like less than 70 because we were open, but barely. So we gathered together all the people that helped make this possible. And we came up with ideas, put them on the board, debated, and then we went with our heart.
So that's what I want to get into. I want to get into your process, right? As entrepreneurs, hey man, like how do you tap into other people's geniuses? Obviously, this was kind of your foundation because you and your wife been to Europe and experienced this thing. But what did that process of those decisions? I mean, you got a lot of money on the line. This is a big deal.
Yes.
You got a big, beautiful resort. This is a big deal, right?
Yeah. And we were nervous about investors, and we're like, well, now we haven't made much money. Yes, we brought in money from we actually knew because we'd sold so many weddings that our investors were safe. So I guess in a way that proved our thesis of our whole investment, that if you sell weddings for 18 months in the future, but have their money now, it stabilizes the risk profile. But as far as not having our employees be able to work, which was heartbreaking because we build culture and we wanted to get them to work and they needed money. They didn't want to sit on their ass. So it was a matter of debate. We literally had about 7, 8 of us in the room. We have great people that are all in on this. And we just fought it through. And then there was a point where we said, no ice rink this year. It's too much money. And my wife said, if there's not an ice rink, we're making a mistake. So she put her foot down and I'm like, how the hell do you get an ice rink, honey? I don't even know how you get an ice rink, but it was always a dream. We're going to have an ice rink. It was 5 years in the future. We're going to do this 5 years in the future. And then COVID just made us have to do it right now if we wanted to make money. So I called a music promoter and he goes, you know what? I'll pay for the damn ice rink as long as we have mega concerts. And if we make more money than I pay, I want 10% on my money and then we'll split the profits. And of course, he and I debated that. And I'm like, go for it, brother. So he dropped risk of like a couple $100,000 to get that ice rink up. And then we went all in on making sure the bar made money and we made our money on the bar, basically.
Beautiful. I want to switch gears because I know we're running out of time here really quick. I know that you're doing amazing things. If someone wanted to invest with you, right? So if someone wanted to invest with you, what does that profile look? Are you looking for accredited investors? Maybe you could just touch a little bit on what accredited investors, what does that mean? So maybe we have some listeners that maybe are not that sophisticated. Maybe you could just break that down really quick. And then if they wanted to invest with you, what does that look like? I know you and I talked about it a little bit last week, but share with our listeners. Someone is listening to you and they're like, wow, that guy's genius. He's brilliant. I love what he's doing. I looked up his hotels. And I'd like to put some of my money with them. But what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, look, we do it. It has to be accredited. which means you have that SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, has this definition. So you can Google it. What is an accredited investor? And it boils down to the fact that because we talk about it publicly on podcasts and I do commercials and stuff, there's a rule that if you're going to do all that public stuff, you have to only allow accredited investors, which means you make several $100,000 a year for consistently, or as a couple, I think it's $300,000 a year, or you have $1 million of assets, not counting your house. So $1 million of assets might be $300,000 in your IRA is your money. And it also might be you bought a beach house with your parents a couple of years ago and now it went up by 500 grand, thank God. So that's 800 grand of net worth. And then you have $200,000 in different investments, right? So it's not mega wealthy people. It's like the people that are probably doing well in their career and bought a few houses or something. And all of a sudden they've made a couple windfalls, right? So it's not, our typical investor is dentists, doctors, sales guys and ladies. Salespeople make a lot of money and they don't want to spend it. The frugal ones want to put it into real assets, and that's what we provide. Mm-hmm. So yeah, accountableequity.com, accountable equity. And what's cool is we learn this from the best, most awesome people. Like you and I are part of a killer group together at DLP. Mm-hmm. There's other people out there like them where they put the investor first. And so when we were doing resorts, we're like, well, should we call the investment group resort stuff? No, because we're going to do more than resorts. We already do. We're going to call it about the investor. So we said, our pledge to you investors is we will always hold ourselves accountable with your equity. And because you need us to, you want us to, we're your workers, basically. So the name is the purpose of our entire company.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And like, you know, this show is about empowering others and giving others opportunities. You know, this may be the only place on this show that someone hears about an opportunity like this. This may be the only place. And guys, if you're listening and you want to invest in you want to invest in hotels and that's something, or resorts, and that's something that really is enticing to you, and you want to schedule a conversation with Josh or someone in his team, hit him up. Accountableequity.com. That's what you said, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's that easy.
Accountableequity.com. If anyone wants to reach you, is there any other way, anything else you want to talk about that you might have going on?
Well, thank you, Martin. The best thing is thank you guys for listening to Martin, and thank you guys for taking a few minutes with me. We appreciate you. Come on over, and when Martin's on the show, make sure you join us at Capital Hacking, which is a great podcast on any podcast platform. It's right in your vein, Martin. It's about empowerment. It's about helping everybody get to the next level.
That's right. That's right. And that's what it's about. If someone resonates with you and they want to invest with you, go for it, brother. You know, this is someone I vouch for. Again, we belong to the same group. He has 10 kids, so he's going to work hard for you.
Yeah, we work hard, man. That's the key to success for you and me.
That's right, brother. There is no other option. Guys, thank you for listening. You've been listening to Latinos in Real Estate Investing Podcast, and I'll see you soon. And remember to like and share this podcast with anyone that you think or know that may need to listen to this. Make sure you share it and you like it. Drop us a comment, leave us a like, and we really, really appreciate you taking the time and listening to us. Peace out, guys.